Well, good morning and welcome to the Emerging Tech series on the Leadership and Insurance podcast. I'm your host, Gavin Savage. This is the podcast where we bring together technologists from the world of InsurTech to generate insights around the rapidly evolving innovation and digital transformation across the insurance industry. Today, I'm very lucky to be joined by co-founder and CTO Dan. Dan, welcome. How are you?
Very good. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on after months of this going back and forth. And I thought we'd just start off by allowing you to, just introduce yourself properly and who you work for.
Sure. So I'm Dan Green. I'm one of the founders and the CTO of Faye Travel Insurance. We are helping travelers right now, US citizens and residents only, but coming soon to a town near you, buy travel insurance and travel protection that is easy to understand, delightful to buy, straightforward to make a claim. In fact, most of the time without any paperwork, fast to get paid for all the approved claims. We're really just trying to take a product that might have once been considered a nice to have pre-COVID, but I think everyone understands between travel meltdowns and weather changes and COVID, it's a must-have product. So making it as easy and as pleasant to buy and use as possible is really important.
Nice. Love it. Yeah, it definitely speaks to me, so much so that I just don't get travel insurance when I go on holiday now because it's that much of a so it can be a bit of a ball ache. But the entire Faye product is, from my side, we had a chance to meet in ITC DI in Barcelona last week, so I felt like that would have been a really good session to record, or maybe not, but we kind of got into it around how the entire Faye product is effectively kind of modeled around you as a human, being such a avid traveler, almost a kind of ode to your experience as a traveler and a driving force in creating the products that can provide this type of coverage. Like, I guess, could you tell us a little bit or give us that context around what inspired you to create Faye and what impact you're looking to make specifically in the travel insurance space?
Sure. So the founders of Faye have been working together now for about 13 years. So my CEO and I have been together for about 13 years, building companies together, which is a really nice way to start any company with such a strong relationship. And our previous company, which we really built before the pandemic made Zoom and Google Meet and Teams ubiquitous. And so we had a lot of meetings in a lot of different countries for us and all of our staff. And we somehow built effectively a travel agency that did crowdsourcing and built technology platforms on the side. That's really how it felt. And in the constant traveling that we and our staff were doing, we really understood how the smallest thing going wrong could really feel magnified. And sometimes just missing a connection or your bag's not showing up were damaging to a meeting. And sometimes it was actually emotionally a terrible experience. Everyone likes to see travel as the hero's journey, and they're kind of the hero, as a comedian used to say, you're sitting on a chair in the sky, you're almost the literal definition of a Greek god. And so often getting out of a jam was just about knowing how the system worked, knowing who to talk to, knowing where to look for information on alternate flights, knowing what the rules were for filing a claim or telling the airline about your lost baggage. And I really built this encyclopedic knowledge of what to do when things went wrong, so much so that everyone in the staff would just call me for advice rather than speak to the airline first. And so when we started building Faye, we actually built it originally as an AI-powered travel assistant just before the pandemic started. I mean, we launched it in late 2019 without the protection component, without the insurance component. And obviously COVID happened. It definitely threw a spanner in the works for everything we were building. But time and time again, people would use our service, they'd reach out to us afterwards, and when we'd ask them for feedback, they'd say, this was a really amazing experience. It was brilliant that you were able to tell me exactly what to do or where to go or how to navigate this difficult situation. But I really wish you could have just fixed it for me or paid for the solution as well. And that was really the evolution into travel protection and travel insurance. and I realize that some of the philosophy is built around what used to happen when you'd call me in the middle of the night. But really our fundamental philosophy is when something goes wrong, you need solutions far more than you need money. I mean, if you've just missed your connecting flight to Boston and you're at London, if I gave you a choice between £500 to get on an alternate flight to get home, or £1,000, or I could just get you on a flight leaving an hour from now, but I'm never going to tell you the cost. But what do you care? You just want to go home. So we really built the company around this idea that when things go wrong, if we can solve the problem for you, we'll do that over giving you just financial remuneration. And if we can't solve the problem for you, then we'll at least do our best to make you whole.
Mm. And it just seems like it's something that should have been prevalent in the space for a long time. I mean, I draw on my own experiences when I traveled to Thailand, and I think I lost a bag for about over a month, you know, and the insurance that I was with, I think it was STA Travel that were doing it. You know, like this went on for months and months. I never got a solution. I never got money, but I had guys looking into it for me. But like, that's what I'm saying. That's why I just don't buy it, because I think I had such an awful experience of it that I'm kind of like a bit scarred by the whole episode. But like what you're talking about just seems very simplistic. You look to provide a solution or cover the costs. Like, where are the gaps for you in travel insurance, and why do we still not quite have that, you know, holistic, simple, responsive coverage?
So I think part of the problem has always been how travel insurance has been sold, which is more often than not, it's a checkbox at the end of the purchase flow when you're buying airline tickets or rail tickets and the like. And the provider just wants you to sort of say yes or no, get the money, not get the money, and move on. There's no customization to your needs. There's no really thinking about what's best for you as the traveler. There's the company that they have a deal with, there's the product that they have built for you, and they're just hoping that you tick the box and they will take the money, keep some of it for commission, give you the product. And then they wash their hands of you effectively, and you are, if you have unfortunately a claim, you're someone else's problem. So there's a total disconnect between who's selling you the policy and who you need to talk to if something goes wrong. And I think a lot of those legacy providers, they really have a lot of manual processes. They're really hoping to solve these problems by throwing humans at it, looking at the forms. That's why they're trying to always get you to complete forms in the same format, so it's easier for people to go through. And we have the advantage that we started from scratch in really 2019, 2020. We built our systems from scratch. We were actually able to start with technology and not rely on an army of humans to read through things. So we can still provide the human touch, but we don't need to ask you to wait 30 days just till someone will be available to even read the paperwork you sent us in the first place. And when you buy from us, we can sell you the product we think you need that will give you the coverage. So when you went to Thailand, it's possible that someone presented you with either 0 options, in which case you bought the wrong thing, or they presented you with 200 options. And at some point it was really tempting to save $5 by just unchecking one of those boxes, except that one thing you unchecked to save $5 was the baggage coverage you really, really would have needed when you got there. So that's why we've tried to simplify the process and use technology so that you can actually have a delightful experience in trip and not suffer when you get home.
Mm. And do you find that the more that you navigate through the travel insurance sector, do you find that you'll be working with, you know, large incumbents to maybe, you know, further digitize and speed up there? You know, for example, like Zurich or AXA, do you see that? Do you see your guys as being somewhat of a bit of a pioneer into what you're doing, or do you just think that there's always going to be that type of insurance there?
Firstly, I think travel insurance as an industry is huge, and there's more than enough space for all of us to work together. I think a lot of the time, we're not even taking customers away from legacy providers. We're meeting customers who are interested in buying travel insurance for the very first time, or they're meeting us and they've always been on the fence about buying travel insurance and now they've decided to buy. So I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I think there's space for all of us to play together. And I don't think the airlines are going to stop offering travel insurance anytime soon. So I think we'll all exist together. And I think ultimately it's good that consumers have choice. I don't imagine us wanting to power the systems of legacy providers. I think it's really important to us that we built our own thing and that we built it from the ground up and that we offer it packaged as Faye. We're not planning to white label and kind of secretly be the provider. We're really proud of our brand. We're really proud of our name. We're really proud of what we're doing for our customers every day. And we want people to know that Faye is their travel protection provider, and that's who they're working with.
Yeah. And I think, talking about, what you envision and where you see it going, like you raised, if my internet sources are correct, you raised 10 million Series A very recently. Everyone knows, I touch on this a lot in the podcast with, the guests we have on around the last 12 to 18 months and what that funding landscape looked like. Super tough. And 2022, okay, it wasn't as tough. Maybe I feel like this year it has been very difficult. How was that experience for you guys in the market this year going through that type of raise?
So I think we had one really strong advantage up our sleeves, which we raised our seed round before things got really crazy. So it wasn't like we had some sort of a crazy valuation that we were never going to be able to live up to because we raised at the absolute peak of the 2021 market. And now we were sort of turning around again and everyone was trying to compare us in different economic climate. So I think that really helped. We had a reasonable valuation before. We were looking for a reasonable valuation now. I think that alone really helps the conversation. And then I think ultimately what it came down to, both for our existing investors, which basically all asked and most participated in the Series A, was everything we told them that we would do by the time we raised our Series A, we had done. I mean, we had cleared the entire list in roughly the time frame we told them we would do it, at either the level or better than we had told everyone that we were going to achieve things. And that really changes the conversation, especially for investors that you might have met 1 or 2 years ago. You spoke about the plan. They said to get in touch when it was time to do your Series A. And now you're meeting them again and they're saying, wow, you actually did not everything you're telling me now that you said you would do 2 years ago. You've actually done everything that you told me you were going to do when you met. Doesn't change the fact it's a difficult environment that you need to have. You need to have a lot of meetings to find the true believers, but we really were buoyed by the fact that all of our existing investors have been very good to us. We have great relationships with them. They were very, very keen to participate, to continue to be a part of the story, and just starting from that position made everything easier.
You say a lot of meetings. I mean, I wonder how many meetings you actually did have, or how many no's that you had before you got to the yeses. Probably more no's, I would imagine.
I mean, it's really hard. It's just a different environment than it is. And you don't necessarily get no's. You often get, we'll think about it or we'll talk about it or different terms. But to be honest, I have the big advantage in that I'm the CTO and not the CEO, and Alud is very good at navigating that world and has always been very good at navigating that world. And I think there's a good reason why we agreed right from the outset that Alud is excellent at business, but probably not the world's greatest programmer. I'm great at programming. We'll split the tasks accordingly, and we'll go from there.
But it's interesting the journey that the CTO goes on with the CEO, because there's obviously elements where you have to come on to these conversations and you have to be very front and center to a degree. But as you say, when it really gets down to it, you probably step back and get back to the day job in terms of coding and building the platform. But I guess reflecting on the year where we're at just now, amazingly, we're now into half two. Can't believe it. But how has the growth been since then for you guys? I mean, I think it's been quite an accelerated growth, certainly from 2019, from when you were founded to now. Like, how has the growth been? Challenges, wins, and what's next? What do you envision for the next 2 years?
So we've been lucky. Growth has been steady since the beginning for us. Every month has been better than the last month, although obviously you would hope that a new entrant into the insurance space that is doing something significantly better than the competition would see growth increase every month. So I don't think that the sales market for travel insurance is particularly difficult right now. Post-pandemic, you had a period of revenge travel. We can debate whether or not that period has come to an end, but I think there's just no doubt that we still live in a day and an age where even if business travel has come down, and I'm not so sure it has, but even if it has, people are traveling for leisure, and they see it almost as a right. Sometimes they see it as part of well-being, part of kind of mental health. It's something that they feel like was taken away from them once and can't be taken away from them again. So I just can't imagine a world where the number of people traveling slows down anytime soon, and that creates an amazing opportunity for us.
I don't think business travels went down for you.
No, nor a lot of people I speak with. So I know the statistics say it didn't recover as fast as leisure travel, but I'm telling you, mate, every plane I get on is pretty full.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Alex, the founder of this pod, he's been away 11 times this year already, and yeah, not quite as lucky, but I do agree, that I've seen that slowdown, that reluctancy to travel for a good 12 months or so, maybe longer after COVID, but it feels like it almost is not a thing at all now, which is obviously great for you guys in the industry. So, I mean, kind of moving on to, I guess, building the type of product that you guys have built, and what I regard building an insurance product in a pretty old school, you kind of touched on at the beginning, very paper driven, non-digital world. You've implemented AI, you've really balanced that team culture within tech teams and insurance. And one thing that stood out to me is that your culture is impressively kind of 60% skewed more to women. So that's really stood out to me also, that your head of engineering is female and manages an entire team of men. Really interesting blend, and a credit to how you guys hire and how you guys, put the thought into making that diverse team. What's been your experience of building this culture, and what's the secret? Because we just don't see enough of it.
So, I mean, I think we're very lucky in that a lot of this happened organically. Even if subconsciously this was something that we hope to achieve, it wasn't like we were selecting individuals based on that criteria. I think that we were lucky enough to navigate this way, and I suspect that the more diverse a workforce is in general, the more attractive it probably is to new potential candidates. Seeing, okay, there's a mixture of men and women, there's a mixture of people from different countries and cultures, and that really does help in the hiring process. I think generally people in this company really love travel, or to some extent can even be obsessed by travel, and that going in. I mean, you're not going to work for a travel insurance company if you hate travel, if you hate the idea of getting on a plane. I think that kind of comes with the territory. So there's probably some self-selection that comes really from the get-go, that people who apply to work here have some sort of adventurous spirit. They like travel. It's part of their own DNA, and I'm sure that comes in. And then we really try very hard to look for people that are a good cultural fit for the company. I think when it comes to pure technology skills, for example, it's much easier to find someone with the right cultural fit, attitude, spirit, whatever term you want to use, and help them become a better developer, a better engineer, than it is to find an amazing engineer who's a terrible culture fit and think that somehow you can change their personality. And I'm sure that's applied throughout other departments as well. Try and find good people who have the right skills, but never let go of how culture is important. And then you end up with a company of people that you want to work with.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just have to be careful and ask this, because the approach to the skill sets and abilities is definitely gender specifically, I get that. But when it comes down to engineering, it comes down to, you know, analytical thinking, you know, analyzing complex, writing code with meticulous attention to detail, being very collaborative, and, you know, having that real creativity spark. That's something that we're seeing a lot of, and as more and more women come into the sector. Like, why do you think we do have such a lack of diversity, particularly within engineering, and also, to go one step further, within engineering leadership?
So I think it's probably less and less the case now. And I would assume there's historical trends that I'm entirely ignorant to. We do have an advantage here that our engineering and R&D teams are in a few locations, but one of the key ones is Tel Aviv. And there's a lot of diversity in the labor market here in general. It's probably a function of compulsory military service and any number of people serving in technological and non-technological units. So I'm sure that helps. But I actually think it applies at any level. I mean, not just engineering. I appreciate diversity at the management level. I appreciate diversity at a board level. I appreciate diversity at a team level, because different people think differently. I don't know if that's necessarily tied to gender per se. There's probably some element, but having people from different cultural backgrounds, different genders and identities, it just gives you a more diverse range of thinking. And I'm sure there's a snowball effect, that if you start with a diverse team, you're more likely to attract diverse talent to the team, and then you can keep it that way.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk of the culture within Tel Aviv specifically. It doesn't sound like sounds like it's very evenly weighted. Like, personally, for someone that's completed searches for startups that are always looking for diverse talent, particularly within engineering, you know, in the UK and the US, there's just not enough of them. You know, I think in the UK alone, there's about 5%, probably a little bit more, that are female engineering leaders, and I think that's definitely still very prevalent. So it's great to hear that that's not the case in somewhere like Tel Aviv, which is becoming a real hub for, you know, tech innovation and startups.
So there's a really good chance. I mean, I don't know the statistics, and I'm sure it does skew towards male engineers, at least historically. I just don't think that's the case for people joining the workforce now. It doesn't feel like that's the case.
Yeah, that's good. That's interesting. And we talk about, you know, culture specifically again within engineering. You know, engineering for me and product and tech teams are, of course, often thought to be operating in, you know, parallel. My experience, particularly with engineering teams, with software engineering teams, is particularly as organizations scale, is that there's more of a disconnect between the teams and the business goals. You know, for example, like Agile and Scrum, you know, which was developed by technology-minded people, but it's kind of, I think, just taken over by business people, just as an example. You know, for you, it seems like, again, you've got that real nice blend of creating that insurance domain business goal achievables to what the tech team are doing. Like, as a CTO, where do the pain points lie for you in terms of culture within tech and engineering teams and aligning it to the business, and how does it happen? How does that disconnect happen? Is it something that you've experienced in the past, or?
I mean, I've certainly experienced it at other companies. In fact, I've been guilty of it at previous companies. I suspect part of it is my advantage that this isn't my first company. This isn't my first entrepreneurial endeavor. So I've had the opportunity to previously see and learn from the mistake of not aligning engineering to the business goals. We have a very strong leader in our CEO who is business oriented, whereas I'm tech oriented. So that also helps. And then we have one set of OKRs for the entire company that filters down. So we do have North Stars that very much try and set out company-wide goals that every single part of the company, including engineering, can directly relate to. So that filters down. And right now, product management is also led by someone with a very strong grounding in both business and product disciplines. So even when it comes to building and prioritizing the backlog, we just always have those influences. And I think that as you said, then gets built into the culture. That as much as I would love to be taken off the leash and allowed to build every single technological whim and innovation that we have dreamt up, experimented with, and built proof of concepts for, but we've learned the balance of getting the fundamentals right, and then putting time into the sprints to work on those extra features that will pay huge dividends in the future, will create a lot of delight for our customers. But I just understand that this insurance is insurance. You want to succeed as a business, you need to get the fundamentals right, and you need to get them very right.
And again, just kind of leading on from what you said there, you've got the CEO looks at the business, you're looking at the tech, like those fundamentals, like, do you kind of set a line in the sand, or is there a kind of strategy that you guys have used at Faye? Because as you say, it's not your first rodeo. So you've come into Faye, very experienced and knowing what needs to happen. But I guess just on a more granular, is there any kind of advice that you would give to someone that's looking to ensure that culture stays remained, and as I say, like tech and engineering don't drift apart?
I mean, I think the whole company has to be clear on the problem you're trying to solve as a company. We are trying to deliver a delightful travel insurance experience that provides our customers with the level of protection that is matched to their needs. And if they need to use it, we're also trying to create a very easy to use, simple experience, quick to get paid when your claim's approved. I mean, we've kind of agreed on what we're building as a product and as a company. And everyone in the company can articulate that. So it gets much easier to focus around the mission. And I think it's really important that everyone gets on the same page as to what you're building and why. And then everyone understands that the ultimate aim of the business is, of course, to make enough money to sustain your operations and to grow the company. I mean, if you're building a business that you think will only live on VC funds for the entirety of its life, you've missed what the ultimate goal is, that eventually the company explodes, thrives, has that moment that we refer to as an exit, and then takes on a life of its own where you trust that it will live for 100 years, if not forever, and become kind of this intergenerational company. And you get there by understanding that you have to succeed as a business. You can't build the world's most exciting technology and think the customers will come later, especially in something like insurance. Technology and business have to go hand in hand from day one.
Nice, I love it. I mean, it seems very organic, straight from the day one. Everyone's been on the same page. It makes it more sustainable, I think, if you get that right from day one. So clearly, you guys have got that appreciation, for the differences across all the different skill sets and teams, and it's, and very embedded in the fabric of the culture. But it sounds like you've got quite a fun. I love the way you describe Faye, a delightful experience. Like, it sounds like you've got a really kind of fun culture of continuously learning, collaboration. Like, do you have any nice things that you guys do to keep people motivated? I've had some really good ones in the past, but just things that you do to keep your, not just tech team, but I guess the overall business, little things that you do that are quite fun.
So, I mean, we've tried to build some elements of travel into the culture. On every anniversary you have with the company, you receive money towards a travel fund that increases over time. So you're actually encouraged to take leisure travel on an annual basis. We're a hybrid company, so we're not remote. We're not full-time in the office. We're very open to people taking periods of time where they go abroad for a couple of weeks and they do a mixture of working remotely and being part of the company. We encourage people who can to travel with our products and eat your own dog food, as people say. So that's very much part of the company. We generally I don't know if happy hours is the solution to make things work, but we've worked very hard on everyone being in the office, at least on the same days when people are in the office each week, so that we're able to have a balance between actually spending time with each other and being social, as well as kind of getting the work done. I think all of that's really important. I mean, most people travel for that reason, right? It's to have experiences, it's to meet new people, it's to go new places. You've got to build that into your company somehow.
Mm. So in short, happy hour, get everyone to the bar at the same time.
And put the bar in the office so that they don't have to walk
Oh
out.
yeah. Takes it back to ITC where there's just a big huge thing that says bar in the middle of the conference. I think it worked very well. But like Dan, I'm kind of conscious of your time. But like it's been great to have you on. Thank you for giving us your time. Yeah, have a good rest of the day.
Thanks very much, Gavin.